Kuhei is a lonely boy who has zero friends because he keeps transferring schools. However, on his first day at the new school, he accidentally encounters the most popular girl there, leading him to discover that she is actually a freaky vampire that wants to drain him dry. It all begins when Kuhei gets off at the island and starts making his way to the academy, where the busty vice president, Erika, is there to welcome him to the school. Kuhei is put at ease at once and thinks Erika is nice, but after barely shaking his hand, she recoils as if in severe pain and shock. Kuhei tries to calm her down and ask her what was up, but she acts like an electrocuted monkey and brushes him off. She then gets flustered and prepares to bail. Just then, a fellow student named Tsukasa happens to walk by, and Erika tells him to show the new guy around the dorms, and then excuses herself, saying she had other stuff to take care of. The two guys get to know one another and became quick friends. The two start to make their way to Kuhei's new room. But before they can head up the stairs, a random girl jumps on Kuhei, knocking him out. When he came back to consciousness, he recognized his strange assailant as Kanade, along with her sister, Haruna. They recognized Kuhei immediately and told Tsukasa that they used to be childhood friends. The next day, they have lunch together, and Kanade hands him a map of the school. Kuhei was supposed to take pics of the landmarks before orientation, so he quickly set to work, until he stumbled upon a white-haired loli named Shiro, who was chasing after an escaped rabbit, and Kuhei ends up catching it for her. Shiro offers to take him to the student council office as thanks. Upon getting there, Shiro's brother, Saikaru, shows up and shoos her away, telling Kuhei that he was unwelcome. But a blonde guy named Iori shows up and invites Kuhei inside for tea. But when they get to the student council room, Kuhei finds Erika there, who gets angry at Iori for letting the normie in, and then storms off. Iori laughs about pranking his sister Erika and introduces himself as the student council president, before telling Kuhei that Erika had taken a liking to him. Later that night, Iori pranks Kuhei again by switching the bathroom curtains and having the creep walk in on Erika,
Yeah, boy.
who was bearing her massive cannons. She then smacks him across the face while barging away, leaving Iori in hysterics. Tsukasa was taking a bath on the men's side too, and overheard Iori revealing his prank. So when Kanade gave Kuhei a disciplinary sticker that night, he chimed in, mentioning that it was not his fault. Kuhei decided to apologize for his lack of self-control, even if it was not his fault, which was heard by Erika, who happened to be eavesdropping. That night, she walked past Kuhei and Tsukasa in the dorms and whispered to him to meet her at the mistletoe tree the next day at 5. Tsukasa told him that the spot was famous for lovers to confess their feelings, leaving Kuhei tingly between his legs. Later, Kuhei headed to the chapel for his orientation picture, and the creepy atmosphere threw him off. But before he could hurriedly snap a picture and skedaddle, he witnessed the horrifying sight of Iori biting into a female student's neck. Due to getting his flabbers gasted, Kuhei was late to meet Erika, who had gotten pissed off after waiting for him, and left him an angry note, telling him what a waste of space he was. The next day, it was the entrance ceremony at the academy, which brought all of the students together. After everyone had taken their place, Iori came out and got all the girls soaked, since he was kind of a celebrity as a senior and the student council president. He took the stage and delivered a cringy speech that left the girls with a lack of chromosomes howling in their seats. And next up was his sister, Erika. She captured the hearts and sausages of the guys in the crowd and delivered a relatively normal speech, until she put the spotlight on Kuhei and demeaned him in front of the academy for barging into the girls' bath and catching a peep of her honkers, leaving the girls thinking that he was a creep while simultaneously becoming a rock star to the horned-up dudes. After being put in blast and exposed for his unconventional pastimes, Kuhei went to his first class for homeroom, and his classmates were more interested in knowing what he saw in the baths rather than his questionable action of being there. But that BS is quickly brought to a halt when a mysterious girl named Kiriha walks in and the guys whisper, calling her an ice queen. After she had taken her seat, the homeroom teacher told Kuhei that his seat was right behind Kiriha's, and he walks up and introduces himself. But she says nothing but a few uninteresting words. Kuhei spent the rest of the day trying to hunt down Erika and apologize for his mistakes, but it ended up being in vain, and he retired to the dorms for the night. There, he walked in on Kanade holding an impromptu auction for bootleg toys left behind by seniors, and to Kuhei's shock, the brain-dead students were too deprived to care, and were hyped up, itching to buy a stuffed toy some chick had cuddled with. However, Sister Shizuko, the counselor, walks in with her infamous frying pan and brings an end to the party, with Kanade and the other students running away. Once he was in his room, Kanade and Haruna held up their end of the deal and barged into his dorm room like ninjas for a tea party, where Kanade asked Kuhei if he had taken all of the pictures. Kanade had taken advantage of the sad chump, and the images were not for an orientation challenge, but rather a pamphlet that she was putting together. Defeated and pissed off, Kuhei just enjoys the tea Haruna had made and goes to bed. The next day, the results for a mock test are posted, and Tsukasa cannot be bothered to check, and Kuhei sees that Erika was the top of her class in every subject except maths, which Kiriha had taken the crown home for once again. That day, Kuhei sat in class staring at the dry freeze queen from behind when he looked outside the window and saw Shiro's rabbit running about. Later, he ends up meeting Shiro, who is on the verge of tears, as she explains that her rabbit had dug a hole and burrowed out of his cage, and Kuhei promises to help her. Just then, Saikiru shows up and gets the wrong idea about why Kuhei was with his sister, but he clears up the misunderstanding and runs off to search for the rabbit. Meanwhile, Shiro and Saikiru seek help from Erika and Iori to find the rabbit, and Kuhei involves his friends. Soon, a full-blown search is launched for the missing pet. However, Kiriha did not share the group's enthusiasm, and when Kuhei approaches her, she makes a dark joke about hunting and ending the animal, which scares Kuhei as he walks away. Later, he walks past the athletic field where some guys are playing soccer and spots Erika. Before he can reach her, Kuhei spots the rabbit, who was seconds away from being smacked by a ball that had wandered out of bounds. Before Erika could react, Kuhei dives in and protects the rabbit, bruising himself in the process. Kuhei is portrayed as the hero and tells the guys that he was fine, and Erika approaches him with a big smile, offering her hand but withdrawing it quickly. Just then, Iori shows up and makes another crude joke about his shy sister, and then leans in close while putting a handkerchief on Kuhei's bruised hand. However, Kuhei gets put off by the zesty undertones and bails, the imagine of Iori being a vampire still burning in his noggin. After that, Shiro is finally reunited with her pet, and Saikiru tells her to thank Kuhei for his help. That evening, Kuhei is lamenting another failed day of trying to apologize to Erika, when she spawns out of nowhere and the two of them make up, finally shaking hands. She forgives him for standing her up, and clarifies that the bath incident was her brother's doing. Meanwhile, Saikiru brought back some test results to Iori of Kuhei's blood on the handkerchief, and they both are shook to learn that there was more to the loser than met the eye. Now officially part of her Creeper's friend group, Erika found herself walking alongside them to school every morning, slowly adjusting to the bizarre reality of having actual friends who didn't seem to mind her weird behavior. The group dynamics were still awkward, but she was trying to fit in despite her long age of social isolation. When Kanade extended an invitation to an exclusive tea party at Kuhei's place, she felt a strange mix of excitement and terror, since social gatherings weren't exactly her forte. But the prospect of normalcy was too tempting to refuse, so she decided to invite Shiro as well. Kuhei, meanwhile, was completely oblivious to the fact that he was being meticulously sized up by her brother Iori, who had developed an unsettling habit of watching him from across hallways and during lunch breaks. The student council president seemed to Kuhei as if he had found his next meal target, though his zesty interest went far beyond simple hunger. There was something calculated about the way he observed Kuhei's daily routines, as if he was studying prey before making his move. In the cafeteria during their usual lunch period, the harsh reality of Kuhei's financial situation became painfully obvious when he stared longingly at the premium meal options he couldn't afford, so he sat down like a chump and ate his noodles once more. His pathetic attempt to make his basic meal look satisfying by stealing off Tsukasa's plate didn't fool anyone at their table. Haruna came with the clutch and generously slid a portion of her salad across to him without making a big deal about him being broke. Tsukasa followed suit, quietly swapping some of his better food portions with Kuhei's sad excuse for lunch, turning their meal into an impromptu sharing session that somehow made the cafeteria feel less lonely. While they ate and chatted about boring school topics, the entire cafeteria's attention suddenly shifted and focused intently on Kiriha the freeze-dry, who had just committed culinary felony by casually dumping an entire pack of powdered peppers into her already spicy food, and proceeded to eat it like it was ordinary candy. Students watched in horrified fascination as she consumed her volcanic meal without even breaking a sweat, cementing her reputation as an unhinged baddie. That evening, after enduring Kanade's bizarre obsession with her sumo wrestling detective show, Kuhei headed to his dorm room, where Erika nervously showed up for their planned tea party. She brought Shiro along, and it was a lively party that ended with them planning to hit the town and go shopping. That weekend, their adventure was filled with all the usual shopping expeditions and beach antics that Kuhei had only seen in movies. They wandered through local stores, tried on ridiculous outfits, and spent hours at the beach building sandcastles and playing around and having fun, until it ended with Erika pulling Kuhei aside and warning him ominously about her brother's true intentions. Back at school the following week, Iori's behavior escalated from subtle observation to outright stalking. He had been following Kuhei persistently through hallways, appearing around corners at convenient moments, and making his presence known in increasingly unsettling ways. Finally, he cornered his target alone in the locker room after most students had gone home, casually asking him to come for a private game at the student council office after school. The invitation sounded innocent enough, but when he reluctantly showed up at the office that evening, Shiro was already there waiting to serve them tea. She prepared an elaborate tea service before her brother diplomatically sent her away with polite but firm instructions, leaving the three of them alone in the spacious office. What started as their innocent game quickly took a deeply disturbing turn when the student council president deliberately stabbed himself in the arm with a letter opener, watching Kuhei's horrified reaction with amusement as the wound immediately regenerated before his eyes. The casual display served as a shocking reminder of his vampire status to Kuhei, and the vivid mental image of having his blood slowly drained by fangs almost sent Kuhei into a complete coma of terror. Just when he thought he was about to become dinner, Iori casually revealed that he wasn't planning on eating him, and simply wanted Kuhei to join the student council, since he now knew their carefully guarded vampire's secret. The alternative option was to get his memory erased entirely, just like what had happened to that girl at the chapel whom Iori was caught munching on. Just then, Erika arrived at the office in the nick of time and was genuinely worried about what her unpredictable brother might do to her first real friend. Iori played a cruel prank, and Erika was reluctantly left to handle the memory erasure after revealing her nature as a vampire. In the end, Kuhei makes his decision to not join the council. He firmly decides that he preferred being a broke creep with his memories intact rather than becoming friends with the vampires, since he has always been a loner to begin with. Later at the beach, as the sun is going down, Erika completely breaks down in tears because she does not want to erase her new friend's precious memories. She was deeply upset and heartbroken that he wanted to forget everything they had shared together with their close group of friends. After he spends some time thinking hard about all his meaningful experiences with Kanade and the gang, who were probably waiting for him back at the dormitory, Kuhei finally realizes something important. Having supernatural friends wasn't so terrible, especially when they seemed to care about his well-being. He ultimately decided to join the student council body, a choice that made both Iori and Saikiru extremely pleased with the unexpected outcome of their elaborate recruitment strategy. Kuhei the creep starts the next day buzzing with excitement about being on the student council of bloodsuckers. The reality of working alongside actual vampires feels surreal, but he's determined to make the most of this bizarre opportunity that fell into his lap. At the office, Iori gives him a detailed crash course on their supernatural abilities, breaking down everything he needs to know about vampire society. They possess all the typical vampire traits that people expect from movies and books, except they love basking in the sun and regularly eat garlic for breakfast like it's some kind of health supplement. Iori reveals he's an ancient vampire with centuries of experience under his belt, having seen countless historical events unfold while maintaining his youthful appearance. Meanwhile, Erika is actually the same age as Kuhei despite her vampire status, and she has a peculiar weakness for extremely hot food that makes her react in sus ways. Their family turns out to be the island's most powerful and prominent family, wielding considerable political and social influence that extends far beyond the school grounds. They also had a historical friendship with Shiro and Saikiru's family. After completing the vampire orientation session, Iori makes a request that catches Kuhei off guard. He asks him to build a stronger relationship with Erika, claiming that their freaky bath encounter has somehow made them partners with no secrets remaining between them. This embarrassing comment causes his mortified sister to completely lose her cool and bash his face violently into the wall with enough force to leave a dent. Following the supernatural education session, Iori takes Kuhei to his regular classroom to introduce him as that year's lead organizer of the highly anticipated sports festival. The students are initially gagged that their beloved idol Twink isn't handling this prestigious event personally, since he has organized amazing festivals in previous years. However, they reluctantly accept the newcomer after he delivers what they think is an absolutely brilliant speech, though Iori credits it simply as turning a demerit into a merit. Kuhei's demanding new position keeps him incredibly busy with endless planning meetings and paperwork, making him too swamped to meet up for their usual tea time gatherings with his friend group. He manages to make it work by scheduling late evening sessions with the gang, who support him unconditionally despite his chaotic schedule. As they discuss his challenging new responsibilities over snacks and drinks, Haruna becomes particularly eager to help with whatever he needs. She remembers how he wrote her thoughtful motivational letters during difficult times in the past, and she wants to return the favor wholeheartedly by being there for him now. Later, while working on research and references in the dusty council storeroom, he manages to forge a much stronger bond with his vampire bestie as they examine old photographs together. The pictures show the never-aging Iori posing with former students from decades past, his appearance completely unchanged while the human students around him have long since graduated and grown old. Kuhei is hit with a spark of brilliance, and he uses his extensive experience as a repeat transfer student to create the best sports festival the Academy has ever seen. He even ventures into town with Shiro to personally secure sponsors from local businesses, since none of the other student council members want to follow his unconventional fundraising approach. Shiro is happy to accompany him on his side quest, since being outside and interacting with regular townspeople isn't something she's accustomed to as a sheltered member of her prestigious family. Her upbringing has kept her isolated from normal social interactions, so these trips become mini-adventures for both of them. During their sponsor hunting, they visit various shops and restaurants, with Kuhei practicing his persuasion skills while Shiro observes him. The local merchants are surprisingly enthusiastic since Shiro was with him. They secure donations of food, decorations, and even some prize money for competitions. Shiro comes clean about her family's reputation, and how she had not been off the island in her entire life. This leads to Kuhei promising to take her off the island on a trip, as a way of thanking her. As the festival preparations continue, Kuhei throws himself into every aspect of the planning process. He organizes committee meetings, coordinates with different clubs, and personally checks on the setup of various booths and activities. His hands-on approach leads to the other students warming up to him and lending him a hand wherever they could. Erika spots him working hard and starts walking over to help him, but she is left gagged when a bunch of students show up to his aid. She notices that, by the end of the intensive festival preparation period, he has become quite popular among the student body, who have mysteriously forgiven his creep show activities from when he first arrived at the school. Kuhei's transformation from social outcast to respected student leader doesn't go unnoticed by Iori and Saikiru, who watch his progress with keen interest. They both observe his remarkable personal growth throughout this entire process and feel completely satisfied with their strategic choice of vampire butler. At long last, the day of the sports fest had arrived. Kuhei gives it a banging start by forgetting his opening speech due to his 500 megabyte memory. Iori heckles him from the crowd, bringing up the bath incident, which gets the crowd fired up, and Kuhei quickly moves on to the oath ceremony before starting the festival. The first event of the day was the 100-meter race, which Kiriha casually came second in, and then started to walk off in her nonchalant era. When Kuhei stops her and tells her that she did well, Kiriha brushes it off and walks away, unimpressed by the loser's words. Next in line was the 400-meter race, where Kanade begged Kuhei to do some commentary, and when asked why, she explained that Haruna was competing, and she did not want to spend the entire time glazing up her sister bride. Before she can up the freak factor, Kuhei steals the mic from her and starts commentating on the race, with Haruna and Erika being in the lead. However, she starts to measure the distance between them in horse lengths. So when Erika wins, she dashes to the commentary stall and delivers a Mortal Kombat level finishing blow for labeling her a wild horse. The rest of the day was filled with tomfoolery and shenanigans as everyone had a blast. The people from the town had shown up, either as sponsors or spectators. However, Kuhei's assistants messed up the prize distribution, and now they were short on prizes. But he does some quick mental math, and remembers Haruna's birthday when he and Kanade did not have enough money for her gift, so they gave her a voucher promising the gift later. He proposed the same idea to his team and got the assistants making vouchers, while he went and begged the adults and merchants for more sponsored prizes. The creep show adults agreed, since they seemed to be having a blast watching the sweaty dudes and gals compete. After that was dealt with, the group sat down to have lunch, where they all ate too much on account of Haruna going overboard with the cooking. She had even made Kuhei's favorite fried noodles, since she wanted him active for the three-legged race that they were doing together, possibly itching for Kuhei's third leg. However, Kuhei reveals that he could not participate in the event he had set up himself, and then tries to play off the disappointment he felt. Just then, Kiriha happens to walk by and mocks his fake good guy performance, before promptly leaving after pissing off Erika. Kuhei follows Kiriha to a secluded spot where nobody was around and asked her to join in on the fun. but he got called back to the main tent before he could chat with her further. Soon, the sports fest was back with a water balloon version of dodgeball. As soon as the game began, Canaid was soaked within seconds, riling up all the dudes around her with an Eiffel Tower view of what she had going under her shirt. She ran away in utter embarrassment, making sure to tag the nasty boys ogling her melons with disciplinary punishment stickers. Meanwhile, Shiro was getting bodied on the playing field, and despite being on the opponent team, Saikiru comes in to rescue her from the water balloons. Meanwhile, Iori has his head up his rear, bragging about never having lost in the water sport, despite it being the first time it was organized. After the time for the game was up, students quickly gathered for the three-legged race, but Haruna had sprained her ankle earlier and could no longer compete, leaving Kuhei without a partner. The nearby students whispered to one another about how they could not team up with him, so Kuhei flags down Kiriha and begs her to become his partner for the race. After seeing the enthusiasm in everyone's eyes, she unwillingly agrees, but tells Kuhei not to have any expectations. Haruna gets to work on braiding Kiriha's hair, confessing that she had wanted to become her friend for a long while. Finally, the race kicks off and Erika is in the lead with her partner, so Kuhei gets off his high horse and tells Kiriha that all that BS about having fun could shove it, and he desperately wanted to win. After the first half of the race was done, the girls were changing costumes, and Kiriha shows up looking adorable in a maid costume, driving all of the boys wild. Meanwhile, Erika was taking her sweet time, and when she finally came out, she was wearing a duck costume from a popular show, which threw her off balance, leading to Kuhei and Kiriha winning. In the end, the festival ended up being a huge success, with the sponsors looking forward to the following year. Iori was thoroughly happy with the success of the event, and as a gift, gave Kuhei a key to his bedroom. However, Erika's fist is quick to clear up the misunderstanding as she tells Kuhei that it was a key to the devil's lair, for the sake of convenience. Kuhei asks around about Kiriha's whereabouts, but nobody knows where she had gone off to after the race had ended. As some students rush him off for an after-party, Kuhei calls back to Erika, telling her that he enjoyed his new role as a student council member, which makes her smile. A few days later, Kuhei runs into Haruna outside in the busy hallway during lunch break, where she's diligently setting up colorful promotional posters for the upcoming Community Service Month that the school organizes annually. The vampire's decorated butler feels surprised and slightly annoyed that Iori hasn't bothered to inform him about this important upcoming event, especially since the student council is supposed to provide direct assistance and coordination for all major school activities. He wonders if this is another one of their tests, or if they simply forgot to include him in their meetings. As he helps Haruna carefully carry the remaining stack of flyers to different bulletin boards around the school, they're being stalked quite persistently by Canaid, who lurks around corners and hides behind lockers while watching their every interaction. She's become absolutely convinced that her dear sister is deeply and hopelessly in love with Kuhei, despite having no real evidence to support this romantic theory. 6 years ago, when Kuhei first told Haruna about his family's plans to leave the island due to his father's sudden job transfer to the mainland, they had made a sincere promise to keep in touch through regular handwritten letters. The distance seemed manageable when they were young and optimistic about maintaining their friendship across the miles. Those letters became their lifeline to each other during the years of separation. In his room, Kuhei is quietly going through those precious letters in her room one evening when he unexpectedly catches Canaid stalking him through the gap in the curtains. Without hesitation, he grabs the stalker by her collar and carries her back to her sister immediately, demanding an explanation for her increasingly strange surveillance behavior. Canaid tries to play innocent, but her guilty expression gives away her matchmaking schemes completely. During the following days, both Yuki and Kuhei start noticing even weirder than usual behavior from Canaid, who's constantly putting excessive effort into teasing them as a potential couple during their group conversations and trying desperately hard to set them up romantically through her schemes. Her attempts range from leaving them alone together to making suggestive comments about how cute they look together, to only letting Haruna pour tea for Kuhei. At one point, Haruna becomes concerned that her sister has become obsessed with Kuhei himself, and is also trying to manipulate the same romantic outcome. At long last, it's finally the day of the special promotional cleaning event organized by the Student Council to publicize and generate excitement for the new cleaning uniforms that students will wear during Community Service Month. The council members still haven't bothered to inform Kuhei about the specific details of this event, and he soon figures out exactly why they've kept him in the dark. The manipulative zesty president is using the nature of men to play calculated psychological mind games with the entire male student population, as he had strategically designed special cleaning costumes for the female students that make them look exactly like the type of maids that ended up stealing husbands from their rightful boy toys. The manipulative plan works perfectly according to their expectations, and the crowd of male students gets completely into the cleaning spirit after the blood rushes to their sausages. The enthusiasm for Community Service Month skyrockets as hormonal peeps suddenly become very interested in participating in cleaning activities they would normally avoid at all costs. Seeing her sister standing shyly on the stage in the eye-catching uniform, Kanade immediately grabs Kuhei's arm and pulls him forcefully to the front row for the best possible view. She's practically forcing them to pose for a couple's picture while simultaneously hitting her sister with the loving self-sacrificing quote. But all of this gets Haruna pissed, and she storms off the stage, thoroughly angry and embarrassed by the very public display that her sister has orchestrated without permission. She feels manipulated and exposed in front of the entire school, as she reveals that her sister was excessively performative because Haruna had gotten into an accident and lost her memories. After Kuhei left the island all those years ago, Haruna had gotten into a serious accident that conveniently erased her memories of the entire year she had spent developing her friendship with the creep. The head injury was severe enough to cause selective amnesia, wiping out specific periods while leaving other memories intact. Feeling overwhelming guilt about her little sister's traumatic accident, which happened while she was supposed to be watching her, Kanade begins dedicating herself completely to making Yuki happy at absolutely any cost necessary. She blames herself for not preventing the accident and commits to a life of service to make up for her perceived failure as a protective older sister. She had incorrectly assumed that her sister and Kuhei were mutually in love based on fragments of conversations and letters she had observed, which was why she went completely overboard playing matchmaker. Kuhei takes the time to carefully explain to both sisters that he and Haruna are merely close childhood friends who reconnected after years apart. Nothing more romantic than that. After hearing both sides of the feuding sisters' emotional stories and understanding the root of their conflict, he meets privately with Kanade to address the real issue. He explains how Haruna doesn't like the fact that her sister is sacrificing her entire life and personal happiness to make her happy, which is the actual reason she's been distant and refusing to speak to her lately. He then encourages Kanade to meet Haruna at their old hangout spot near the mistletoe, where the sisters finally get the chance to express their true thoughts to each other openly and honestly for the first time in years. Haruna confesses that her physical weakness, which has followed her since birth due to a chronic condition, made her secretly jealous of her perfectly healthy sister. However, after the memory erasing accident, she didn't like seeing her once cheerful and carefree sister become completely focused on making her happy while she remained a side character in her own life story. Meanwhile, Kanade feels terrible for letting her sick sister get injured while she had been enjoying herself carelessly being an angsty kid. She had dedicated all her free time to making up for her perceived failure by helping Yuki with absolutely everything. That is when Kuhei reveals that even after the memory erasing accident, Haruna had still continued sending letters to his old address despite completely forgetting who he was. They had reconnected naturally and worked together to make entirely new memories while honoring their old bond. The trio, now reunited and finally understanding each other's motivations and feelings, takes a moment to remember the heartfelt wishes they had made to the mistletoe shrine years ago as children, which was for Kuhei to return to them. Erika has just put a shy nerd firmly in his place after he takes a desperate romantic chance with her during lunch break in the courtyard. He confesses his feelings, but she shuts him down immediately and efficiently, maintaining her strict personal rule against any kind of relationships since she considers those to be purely human activities that don't concern vampires like herself. Right after rejecting the poor sap, she runs into Kuhei near the main building, who plays the classic hair trick with her by casually fixing a strand that's gotten caught in her collar. Her brother Iori watches this innocent interaction from across the courtyard with keen interest, noting how naturally Kuhei approaches his sister and how she doesn't immediately push him away like she does with other students. Later that afternoon at the council office, Kuhei discovers through casual conversation that it happens to be Erika's birthday, a fact that nobody else seems to care about. He leaves the office immediately when he gets his first chance, using an errand as his excuse to get something for the vampire baddie. Meanwhile, the female students are busy cleaning the school pool in maid costumes in preparation for their upcoming pool day and swim meet combination event. The pool hasn't been used in weeks and needs scrubbing to get it ready for the big day. Iori and Saikiru show up to help with the cleaning efforts, though each has his own ulterior motives. Iori gets his daily dose of female validation, while Saikiru does some performative cleaning for his sister. After returning to the office later that evening, Kuhei works diligently on event planning paperwork with Erika, going over schedules and coordinating different activities for the pool day. A sushi delivery arrives at the office, specifically addressed to him, which confuses Erika since he didn't mention ordering food. After getting his actual package from Tsukasa, who's been helping him with his secret mission, he presents it to Erika with nervous excitement. He manages to order her a beautiful bouquet of fresh flowers and has Tsukasa help him pick it up from the florist, since he needed to be present at the office. After giving the lonely vampire her very first birthday gift, she thanks him with tears forming in her normally cold, immortal eyes. The gesture hits her harder than expected since being immortal means that vampires traditionally don't celebrate birthdays or mark the passage of time. Back in her private room later that day, while trying to find the perfect prominent spot to display her precious gift where she can see it every morning, she experiences a series of heart attacks from the overwhelming emotional impact. Her vampire physiology isn't used to processing such intense positive feelings, and her chest keeps tightening with unfamiliar warmth. After the student council settles on combining the swim meet with the pool day celebration to maximize participation and fun, the entire school changes into their swimsuits with excitement. The event promises to be one of the highlights of the semester, with competitions and casual swimming happening simultaneously. Shiro, who's changing in the girls' locker room with all the other female students, completely forgets how to remove her shirt properly when the variety of fully developed melons around her makes her feel completely inadequate about her own physical development. She stands there struggling with her uniform while trying not to stare at her more mature classmates, feeling like a noob among grown women. The male students are much more focused on Sister Shizuko, who has appeared poolside in her full conservative holy attire on the one day she's supposed to display her holy attributes to the student body. Iori, on the other hand, has absolutely no issue putting his perfectly sculpted twink body on full display for the chicks, who go completely crazy for his calculated sneak peeks and strategic poses. He knows exactly what he's doing and enjoys every second of the attention, until Erika gets annoyed with his showboating and knocks him forcefully into the pool. Erika and Kuhei, who keeps getting distracted by her melons despite trying to focus on work, coordinate the entire event from the poolside. They manage sign-ups, keep track of times, and make sure all the equipment is working properly. Kanade serves as the enthusiastic program announcer, using the pool's PA system to kick off their various races and other competitive events with infectious energy. Toward the end of the busy day, she sets up a special elimination-style event that gets everyone excited. She gathers all the male judo practitioners and organizes an intense game where they have to hunt down and capture the red swimming caps on the girls' heads. After unleashing the beasts into the pool, they immediately start ravaging the female participants, taking them out one by one with surprising efficiency until only Kiriha and Shiro remain standing as the final survivors, using their dexterity and cuteness respectively to escape. The boys first decide to surround the Great Freeze-Dry, who stands in the shallow end looking completely ready to take them all on at once with her superior reflexes and combat abilities. They pounce on her aggressively in a coordinated attack, but she proves too slippery and manages to escape from their combined grasp entirely. Seeing his beloved little sister Shiro about to be overwhelmed and defeated by a dozen beef sticks in the deeper end of the pool, Saikiru loses it, but Iori stops him. The boys immediately back down from their aggressive pursuit, wisely deciding to avoid an early prison sentence for hurting the cute girl with a threatening brother. At the end of the eventful and exhausting day, the male students get their petty revenge on Sister Shizuko by unceremoniously dumping her into the pool with all her holy garments still on, then leaving triumphantly while she sputters in the water. Kuhei and Erika are left alone to pack up all the scattered equipment and clean up the mess. Kuhei decides to challenge her to a quick swimming race, since they haven't actually participated in the fun part of the event due to their coordination responsibilities. As expected, she beats Kuhei in the race, who has gotten soaked in more ways than one. After getting out of the pool, they almost fall together on the wet tiles and instinctively grab onto each other for support to avoid crashing. Seizing what seems like the perfect golden opportunity, Kuhei moves in closer for a slurp session, but Erika's heart starts racing uncontrollably with panic, and she runs away from him in complete terror. She retreats quickly to her private room, where both the physical pain and her dangerous desire for Kuhei's blood intensify beyond her control. She struggles desperately to hold herself back from giving in to her vampire instincts, accidentally breaking his precious flower gift in the violent process as her hands shake uncontrollably. Erika, who has fallen asleep at her desk while fantasizing about the elegant curve of Kuhei's neck, wakes up suddenly from a vivid nightmare where she has sucked every single ounce of fluid from his body, leaving him completely drained and lifeless on the floor. The dream feels disturbingly realistic when she jolts awake in a cold sweat. Meanwhile, across campus, a female student who has just finished her romantic confession at the chapel is heading out into the evening when she witnesses something that freezes her blood. A cloaked girl stands ominously on the chapel roof like some kind of supernatural gargoyle, and the witness completely forgets how to run away from the terrifying sight. Her legs turn to jelly as she stares up at the mysterious figure until Shizuko comes outside to lock up the chapel for the night and finds the student collapsed on the ground in shock, while the creature has mysteriously vanished into the darkness without leaving a trace. The next day at school, the cloaked chapel vampire becomes the hottest daily scoop that everyone discusses during lunch breaks and between classes. Students gather in groups, sharing theories and adding their own dramatic embellishments to the story. Hearing about her kind being discussed so openly is seriously freaking Erika out, making her paranoid that someone might connect the dots. The conversations get even worse when boyfriends casually tell their girlfriends how they would immediately abandon them if the vampire threat turns out to be real, while Iori acts like the whole vampire situation is completely regular activity, which confuses everyone who expects the student council president to be more concerned about supernatural threats on campus. Erika can't understand why he remains so unbothered by the rumors circulating through the hallways and spreading like wildfire. He claims that the best course of action is to uncover the absolute truth behind these sightings and decide on an appropriate plan from there, rather than panicking over unconfirmed reports. Toward the end of the school day at the dormitories, Kanade has pulled out the divine weaponry from her emergency stash, which is a full metal cross and the great garlic necklace that she's woven together with military precision. She's ready to take on any blood-sucking vermin that could potentially harm her precious and fragile sister Haruna. Kuhei and the rest of their friend group, who have just returned from their after-school activities, meet her in the common area and immediately notice her vampire hunting gear. Erika, who's already on edge from the morning's nightmare and the day's gossip, becomes significantly more anxious about the supernatural threat being taken so seriously by someone so close to their circle. Iori, on the other hand, remains as carefree as could possibly be under the circumstances, even helping Kanade fuel her paranoid delusion by complimenting her farmer's market garlic necklace and suggesting additional protective measures. His casual attitude about vampire hunting gear strikes everyone as either very brave or very stupid. The overwhelming smell of the enchanted necklace proves too strong for mere mortals to handle without gagging. Soon, the frying pan spanker shows up right on schedule and immediately scolds the wannabe vampire warrior who's supposed to be setting a proper example for the rest of the students instead of causing chaos with her preparations. She asks them all to head back inside immediately and stop disturbing other residents. She assures the assembled group that such supernatural creatures don't exist in reality and that students shouldn't waste time worrying about imaginary threats. However, she admits there's apparently some random girl who roams the campus mysteriously at night, which could explain the sightings. While Iori messes playfully with Sister Shizuko by asking innocent questions about chapel security, he gives the group a subtle hand signal to prepare for an organized night patrol to investigate properly. At dusk, when the campus is quiet, they gather their flashlights before beginning their systematic patrol of all the buildings and grounds. Erika gets paired with Kuhei for their search route, and she reveals during their walk how lying constantly to everyone about her true vampiric identity makes her feel genuinely terrible inside. The weight of deception is crushing her spirit more each day. As he cheers her up with supportive words and reassuring smiles, she keeps fighting her intensifying hunger for his blood, which grows stronger whenever they're alone together. After spending hours searching every corner of the campus and finding absolutely nothing suspicious during their thorough investigation, they all gather back outside the chapel. That's when the cloaked vampire finally reveals herself. After positioning herself prominently on the chapel roof for maximum theatrical effect, they discover that the mysterious vampire terrorizing students is actually Kiriha. She reveals that she's a dependent vampire who has been desperately looking for her missing master. Her search has been growing more desperate and less subtle as weeks pass without any leads. She runs off quickly using supernatural speed, and Erika immediately chases after her with matching vampire velocity. Kuhei and Sato follow on foot as fast as their human legs can manage. but they quickly fall behind the supernatural pursuit. Haruna, who has heard suspicious sounds coming from outside her dormitory window, wakes up immediately from her light sleep. After seeing two super fast figures run into the dark woods like something out of a supernatural thriller, she makes the questionable decision to venture out into the woods alone to investigate the mysterious creatures. After chasing the exceptionally agile Kiriha through thick trees and undergrowth, Erika can't maintain the demanding pace and falls exhausted to the forest floor, where she unexpectedly encounters Haruna. The shock of seeing her friend in vampire form makes Haruna pass out immediately from the overwhelming revelation. After speaking privately to Iori about what has to be done according to strict vampire protocol, Erika prepares herself mentally to erase Haruna's memory completely. It's a procedure she's performed before, but she is conflicted this time. She brings the unconscious Haruna to the council building and prepares when Kuhei desperately bursts in and asks her not to proceed with the procedure. She reveals the painful truth that she has actually erased Haruna's memory before, 6 years ago during their childhood. She and Haruna had been quite close friends, and they played together regularly during that missing year. On the day of her traumatic accident, she had actually saved her from the potentially fatal collision using vampire speed and deliberately took away her memory of the supernatural encounter to protect the secret. This was why she has been missing an entire year from her recollection and couldn't remember Kuhei at all when he returned. After Kuhei begs her desperately to leave Haruna memory completely intact this time, Erika refuses and starts the standard erasing procedure according to established vampire protocol. Haruna wakes up during the process and thanks Erika genuinely for saving her life back then, showing she remembers more than expected. Erika performs the memory spell with careful precision, but to Kuhei's complete surprise and relief, she doesn't actually erase the memories as everyone expected her to do. Now, Haruna remembers Kuhei clearly and all the precious time they spent together as children. Erika has decided that she's completely done deceiving her closest friends and wants them to know that she's a good friend to them. A couple of days have passed since the revelation, and Kiriha has not returned since that night, and Haruna is still recovering from the effects of the memory spells. While Kuhei and Erika walk to school together like usual, they run into Haruna and Kanade near the school gates. Haruna looks better than before but still seems a bit out of it, with Kanade sticking close to her. Erika prepares for the beating of a lifetime, but instead, Kanade stretches on her tiptoes to hug Erika properly. She thanks her sincerely for saving Haruna from the accident and expresses happiness that she is their friend. Kanade is really emotional about it, going on about how glad she is that Erika isn't some fake person pretending to be nice. As the gang arrives at school, they also encounter Kiriha, who has returned and is as cold as ever, even refusing to speak with Iori and Saikiru. She just walks past them like they don't exist, which Iori thinks is pretty harsh, even for her. He tries to say something, but she completely ignores him, while Saikiru looks annoyed but doesn't push it. At the council office, after Saikiru reminds Shiro of her designated place in the kitchen, Iori tells Erika to forget about the Kiriha issue entirely, reminding her of a certain promise she has made. Erika gets uncomfortable when he brings up this promise and Kuhei, who has just entered and missed the heavy conversation, gets assigned to be the lead organizer for the culture festival, with Erika serving as his dedicated assistant as usual. It's typical student council stuff, but Kuhei seems excited about it. He starts talking about all the things they could do and how it would be the best festival ever. The rest of the gang offered their complete support and shared their creative ideas ahead of the festival, which was scheduled to happen after their summer break. Everyone was throwing out suggestions left and right. Kanade wanted a haunted house, Haruna suggested a cafe, and even Shiro had some ideas about food stalls. Meanwhile, Saikiru went to meet the dreaded freeze-dry and asked her to follow him to meet a certain someone, and Kiriha didn't ask questions, she just followed him. Meanwhile, Erika and Kuhei had gone to the shops to purchase supplies after Iori specifically asked them to handle the procurement. They made a pretty good team, with Kuhei handling the heavy stuff and Erika dealing with the negotiations. While there, they met up with the local business owners to begin discussions about the culture festival sponsorship and partnerships. Some of the business owners were really interested in helping out, especially because of how successful the sports festival had been. After completing their shopping expedition, they sat near the beach, where Kuhei asked her about what exactly a dependent was in vampire terms. She explained that dependents were humans who entered into binding contracts with vampires by drinking their blood, which granted them vampire-like abilities, but also meant they would become completely enslaved to the vampire's every wish and command. Meanwhile, Saikiru had brought Ikika to a foggy house where a lady who possessed midget genes was waiting patiently. The lady waiting inside was tiny, even smaller than most of the students at school, and she turned out to be Kaya, Erika's mother, and Kiriha's master. Kiriha, who was in complete control of herself, gave the aged shrimp a sharp slap and tried to leave after calling her crazy. However, she submitted to her master's will like a puppet once Kaya commanded her obedience. Meanwhile, Erika reveals to Kuhei that her mother was a cruel vampire who had locked Erika away as a child for not being a proper vampire according to traditional standards. It explained to Kuhei why Erika was always so worried about fitting in with the vampire world. The promise Iori had spoken of earlier was actually a deal between mother and daughter, that Erika had to find a dependent before graduation or be forced to return home to be caged indefinitely. That was the big secret everyone had been dancing around. Erika wasn't just trying to be a good vampire, she was trapped by this deadline. If she didn't find someone to enslave by graduation, she'd be locked up again. Kuhei, who didn't mind becoming a super strong second-rate vampire, offered himself to become her dependent immediately. He didn't even hesitate when he heard about the whole situation. However, she refused his sacrifice completely. She didn't want him to lose his weak, pathetic life as a human and become a strong servant that could live forever under supernatural bondage. Even though it would solve her problem, she couldn't do that to him. She'd rather face whatever her mother had planned than turn him into a slave. At the chapel, Iori was thinking deeply when Shizuko came in. The place was quiet, and Iori looked like he had a lot on his mind. When she asked him to head back since it was getting late, but he claimed there was nothing to worry about, still referring to her by her first name. He left after making a casual joke about how vampires crave the blood of the person they love the most. After seeing Erika off following their shopping trip, she drank all the blood she had left in her refrigerator but had become even more thirsty and seemed to crave only Kuhei's specific blood. The more she tried to stray from her vampire roots, the more vampire side kept getting stronger. The following day, students pile up outside the council building to submit their culture festival requests to the council and event organizers. The line stretches down the hallway and around the corner, with everyone carrying folders full of proposals and ideas. Kuhei and Erika are stuck at a table in the main room, going through submission after submission. There are requests for everything from haunted houses to food stalls to performance stages. Students keep coming up to ask questions about regulations, space requirements, and budget allocations. After a long, exhausting day of planning and coordination, Erika leaves with Kuhei. Her hands are cramped from writing notes and her head is pounding from listening to student complaints and requests all day. Kuhei looks just as tired, rubbing his eyes and stretching his back as they finally lock up the council room. She is still struggling intensely with her thirst and keeps herself constantly occupied to distract herself from her overwhelming desires. Every time there's a quiet moment, she can feel the hunger creeping back. She focuses on organizing papers, checking schedules, anything to keep her mind busy. But the distraction only works for short periods before the craving returns stronger than before. On her way back to the dormitory, she spots a black cat and knows what to do. So, she makes her way to her old house to meet Kaya. The midget wants to know why her daughter has not yet made Kuhei her dependent. The dialogue makes it clear that she already knows about him and wonders why Erika is fighting the inevitable despite their binding agreement. Kaya points out that Erika has been spending time with this human boy for weeks now, and questions why Erika is wasting time when the solution to her problem is right there. The deadline for finding a dependent was hovering over her head. Despite her mother reminding her of their deal, Erika claims that she doesn't want to take human blood and refuses to let Kaya dictate her life choices. Kaya retorts that the deal they made is binding, and time is running out whether Erika likes it or not. The next day, Iori decides that he will give the committee a complete day off for them to do whatever they please. He announces this during their morning meeting, saying everyone has been working too hard on festival preparations. The stress is showing on everyone's faces, and they need a break before things get even more hectic. Kanade has already formulated an idea before Iori even finishes talking. She pulls out what looks like a toddler's drawing book filled with colorful sketches and messy handwriting. She announces they are going to spend the day at the beach playing games and watching fireworks at the end. Her enthusiasm is obvious as she shows off her badly drawn plans for beach volleyball and swimming competitions. They decide to visit Tamatsu Island, as Shiro and Saikiru have a traditional dance to present according to their family's religious traditions. The island has a small shrine where their families have been performing ceremonial dances for generations, so it was the perfect excuse to combine relaxation with cultural obligations. Before they depart for the beach day off, Erika decides that she won't take any of the blood transfusion packs. She stares at the refrigerator in her room, knowing that the blood inside could help with her cravings. But she is still obsessed with being weak and doesn't want to consume blood at all. She closes the door and walks away, determined to tough it out. Once at the beach, Kanade brought a bag full of beach games and sports equipment. Haruna is looking forward to just relaxing in the sun. Kuhei keeps glancing at Erika, noticing that she seems more tense than usual. At the beach, after changing into their bikinis, swimsuits, and trunks, they kick off the day with swimming and playing several sports energetically. They set up a volleyball net in the sand and divide into teams. The volleyball game gets competitive quickly, with Erika putting the Heiku cast to shame. Afterwards, everyone is having a blast at the beach, but Erika keeps pulling back from the group activities, sitting on the sand and watching instead of participating. As the day goes on, they build sandcastles and collect seashells. Shiro and Saikiru disappear for a while to prepare for their traditional dance at the shrine. At the end of the day, Kuhei, who is with Erika, tries to grab her hand to head to the Tamatsu shrine together. However, she avoids his touch and runs off. According to Iori, her blood cravings are getting significantly stronger and more difficult to control. The physical contact almost triggers something inside her, and she can't risk being that close to him right now. She makes an excuse about needing to change clothes and hurries away. Iori, who notices his sister's struggles, tells Kuhei about the painful effects of her delusion and asks him to watch out for her carefully. He doesn't give away all the vampire secrets, but he makes it clear that Erika is dealing with something serious. He asks Kuhei to be patient with her strange behavior and to stay close in case she needs help. As they approach the shrine, he asks her about her condition, but she plays it off, pretending to be completely fine. She forces a smile and claims she's just tired from all the beach activities. She insists that she's looking forward to meeting up with Shiro and Saikiru. Once at the shrine, they switch into yukatas before heading out to watch the fireworks. Everyone goes to a good spot on a hill overlooking the water where they can see the fireworks clearly. When Iori deliberately pushes Kuhei into Erika, her bloodlust becomes overwhelming and she flees. The accidental contact sends her vampire instincts into overdrive. She runs into the forest surrounding the shrine, eventually falling onto the grass where she battles her vampiric instincts. She curls up on the ground. Kuhei notices her missing and runs after her, and after discovering her collapsed on the ground, he is absolutely fed up with being powerless, and he seizes her and won't release his grip. Recognizing her impulses are intensifying, he draws her close for an embrace and presses his neck against her lips. He makes the decision for both of them, knowing that she's too stubborn to give in on her own. She finally surrenders and feeds on his blood. Upon awakening refreshed in her bedroom, Erika has blocked out her blood drinking incident and feels satisfied about resisting her cravings. Her body feels energized and strong, completely different from the weakness and pain she remembers from the past few days. She assumes her willpower finally won out against her vampire instincts. She gets dressed quickly, eager to start the day. For the first time in weeks, she doesn't feel that gnawing hunger in the back of her mind. Back at the office, she is eagerly returning to work organizing the festival and various related events. She spreads out all the paperwork and planning documents across the table, ready to tackle the mountain of tasks. The festival is only a few weeks away now, and there's still much to coordinate. She makes lists and checks them twice, determined to make this the best culture festival the school has ever seen. When Kuhei enters, she approaches to assist with the stuff he was carrying, but as she gets near him she faints. She is too overwhelmed by his blood and presence and falls to her knees. The memories come flooding back in vivid detail of drinking his blood, and she feels disgusted. Her demeanor shifts dramatically, and she attempts focusing on work as a distraction. She scrambles to her feet, avoiding eye contact with Kuhei, and buries herself in paperwork. Every time he moves or speaks, she flinches slightly, fighting against the urge to get closer to him. Kuhei tries to ask if she's okay, but she waves him off with mumbled excuses about being tired. She keeps her distance, staying on the opposite side of the room whenever possible. Kuhei later reconnects with Haruna and Kanade, explaining his sudden absence from last night's events before they begin discussing after-party arrangements. He tells them he had to help Erika with something important, keeping the details vague. Haruna and Kanade seem satisfied with the explanation and don't press for more information. Following their conversation, Kuhei returns searching for the vice president but finds her nowhere. He checks everywhere, but she's completely disappeared. Eventually, he resumes working on festival preparations while noticing Erika's increasing absence. The festival planning starts falling behind schedule because so many tasks require her input or approval. In her room, Erika is attempting to satisfy her thirst with ordinary blood, but it proves useless. She opens the small refrigerator and pulls out several bags of donated blood that she keeps for emergencies. She drinks them one after the other, but the hunger doesn't go away. If anything, it gets worse. She craves only Kuhei's blood, and she curls up on her bed, clutching her stomach as the familiar pain returns. She realizes that something fundamental has changed after tasting human blood. Her vampire nature is no longer satisfied with substitutes. Over the following days, Kuhei stops encountering her entirely and becomes overwhelmed with student council duties and school responsibilities alongside the students helping with setup. The festival is approaching fast, and without Erika's help, everything falls on his shoulders. Every problem lands on his desk, and he's running from crisis to crisis trying to keep everything on track. During the night while she battles her agonizing cravings, Kiriha arrives with a message from Kaya. She is insisting that Erika return home since she has refused to make Kuhei her dependent despite consuming his blood, failing to honor her side of their agreement. The message is delivered with Kiriha's usual nonchalant tone, and Erika cusses her out for being a puppet to a sadistic master. Erika reveals her mother has been conducting a centuries-spanning game with her, erasing his memories of being her servant and banishing her to spend decades and centuries searching for her, only to wipe her memory again and restart this twisted cycle of hide and seek. Kiriha, shocked, departs after delivering the message, which essentially conveys Kaya questioning why she refuses to drink blood that was willingly provided. The following day, after discussing with Kanade and Haruna and finally developing a clever solution, Kuhei goes to inform Erika of an after-party plan but can't locate her again. The others tell him that Erika was not around when he heads to the Devil's Lair, but she is concealing herself in the council office and emerges after his departure. She waits behind the door, listening to his footsteps fade away down the hallway. Only when she's certain he's gone does she come out of hiding. Her cravings have reached the point where she collapses onto the desk merely thinking about him. She grips the edge of the desk, trying to steady herself. Her vampire instincts are taking over despite her efforts to resist them. Iori suggests finding another person to serve as a dependent, but given Kuhei's blood is unique, it can't be just anyone. She is informed that human blood all tastes different, and once a vampire develops a preference for someone specific, other blood becomes unsatisfying. Shiro decides to volunteer her own self to end Erika's suffering. She steps forward calmly, offering herself without hesitation. She says she understands the situation and wants to help resolve it before things get worse. But this enraged Seikiru, who grabs Iori by the throat, but becomes subdued when Iori, revealed as his master, commands him to cease. Erika, still obsessed with her fantasy of perpetual mortality, remains determined to find her own solution. She insists there has to be another way that doesn't involve enslaving anyone or giving up her humanity. She refuses Shiro's offer and tells Iori to forget about their mother's demands. Later that evening, she collapses outside Kuhei's room, surrendering to her urges. She crawls down the hallway on her hands and knees, no longer able to walk upright. The hunger has consumed her completely, and she can no longer fight against what her body demands. She reaches his door and collapses against it, too weak to knock or call out his name. Soon, Erika has willingly returned home, as she refuses to survive on Kuhei's blood and goes to imprison herself once more. She makes the decision during the early morning hours when her cravings become too intense to bear. Rather than risk hurting him or anyone else, she chooses to go back to the place she hates most. This choice leaves Kaya extremely disappointed in her. When Erika arrives at the family estate, her mother is waiting in the main hall. Kaya expected her daughter to return with a new dependent in tow, not as a failure who couldn't complete the simple task of enslaving one human boy. The disappointment in her voice cuts deeper than any physical punishment could. Back at school, Kuhei awakens to find the small parachute she has left by his door. The tiny paper artifact sits on the floor, and Kuhei goes to the council room seeking her. When he inquires about her whereabouts, Shiro explains everything from the previous night, while Iori informs him she has departed permanently. Shiro's explanation is matter-of-fact but gentle, trying to help him understand the impossible situation Erika was facing. Iori brings him to the chapel where he explains she has chosen to leave because her thirst's torment has become unbearable. and he tells Kuhei that Erika was trying to protect him by leaving, and that if he wants her return, he will need to take action himself. Iori makes it clear that Erika won't come back on her own since her sense of duty and self-sacrifice is too strong, and if Kuhei wants to change the situation, he has to be the one to make the first move. Meanwhile, the remaining students are occupied with festival preparations and keep asking about the vice president, oblivious to what is going on. Kuhei tries to manage the administrative duties, but students keep asking where she is and when she'll be back. He makes vague excuses about her, but people are starting to notice that her absence is stretching on too long. Kanade and Haruna decide to arrange another tea gathering. They're concerned about both Erika's disappearance and Kuhei's increasingly stressed behavior. They think a relaxing afternoon with friends might help everyone feel better. They send out invitations and start planning snacks and activities. Later that day, after encountering the distressed Kuhei, who has begun hallucinating and mistakes Haruna for Erika, at the tea party, he reveals that Erika won't be returning as they have all been anticipating her presence. His exhaustion and worry have pushed him to the breaking point. The tea party becomes more serious when he explains the situation. Haruna and Kanade listen in shock as he describes Erika's struggles with her vampire nature and her family's demands. They urge him to bring her back since she has become crucial to their friend circle and the school's students. Kanade points out that Erika has helped all of them in different ways, and they need to help her now. Haruna agrees, saying that real friends don't abandon each other when things get difficult. The conversation goes late into the night as they discuss possible solutions. Kanade suggests they all go together to bring her back. Meanwhile, at Kaya's residence, Kiriha goes to summon Erika for Kaya. The family estate is cold and imposing, and after deciding to retrieve Erika, Kuhei meets Iori and Shiro at the entrance and they escort him to the Sendo house. There, he encounters Kaya, who is pleased to see her daughter's dependent has come to offer himself again. The tiny vampire examines him with interest, circling around him like a predator sizing up prey, and she assumes he's finally come to his senses and realized that becoming Erika's dependent is the obvious solution to everyone's problems. Kuhei claims he doesn't wish to become a dependent, and that he simply wants to bring Erika back to school. He essentially tells the ancient vampire that her teenage daughter, who literally requires blood for survival as a vampire, shouldn't be compelled to perform the fundamental vampire activity. Kaya, who is exasperated, launches him skyward as if he weighed nothing. The ancient vampire rises and grasps his neck, preparing to demonstrate his true weakness, when Erika appears. She had been listening from the hallway and couldn't stand to see him hurt because of her. She begs Kaya to let Kuhei go, and begs him to get away from her, since she was nothing but trouble. She tries to make her voice cold and distant, but it wavers with emotion. He refuses and asks her to accompany him. Kuhei steps closer despite her attempts to push him away. He tells her that he's not afraid of her vampire nature, and he's not going anywhere without her. He proposes that she can struggle with her vampire hunger while still living the life she wants, surrounded by friends who care about her. It's not a perfect solution, but it's better than being caged, and surprisingly, she agrees and confronts her mother while Iori watches alongside Shiro, proud of his sister for forging her own destiny. Erika stands up to Kaya for the first time in her life, declaring that she's going to find her own way to deal with being a vampire. Iori smiles as he watches his sister finally show some backbone. Kaya warns Erika that this path will only lead to more suffering, but Erika is determined to try. She tells her mother that she'd rather struggle with her choices than live as a prisoner in her own family home. After waiting throughout the night outside the dormitory, Kanade, Haruna, and Tsukasa are relieved to finally see Erika return to school. They've been taking turns keeping watch, determined to be there when she comes back. When they finally spot her walking up the path with Kuhei, they run to greet her with hugs and tears. They proceed to hold the cultural festival following summer vacation and concentrate on savoring their remaining time before graduation. The culture festival is a huge success. With all their hard work paying off, Erika throws herself into the activities, using the busy schedule to distract herself from her ongoing hunger. The friends spend their final school months making memories together, knowing that soon they'll be going their separate ways. That is all for today's video. If you watched till the end, comment down below Sister Shizuko's holy attributes to confuse the normies. If you enjoy anime recaps like this one, don't forget to check out this video right here.